My name is Jason, and I'm 41 years old. My wife, Emily, is 38. We've been married for 13 years, and we have a son, Michael, who just turned 10. Our life is stable, typical suburban living. I work as an operations manager, and Emily works part-time in human resources. We've always had a comfortable routine, nothing overly exciting, but solid. At least, that's what I thought. Lately, things feel different. Emily has been distant. She takes longer to respond to messages, seems less engaged in our conversations, and spends more time on her phone. When I ask about her day, her answers are vague. I notice how she gets defensive over simple questions, brushing off any concerns with a forced smile. I push my suspicions aside. Maybe she's just stressed. Maybe work has been tough. But deep down, I know something is off. Then, one Saturday evening, the situation escalates. I'm in the garage, fixing a loose shelf, when the doorbell rings. I wipe my hands and head inside, expecting it to be a neighbor. Instead, when I open the door, I come face to face with a man I don't recognize. He looks to be around my age, tall, confident, and well-dressed. There's something smug about his expression, like he's enjoying himself a little too much. "Hey, man," he says casually, like we're old friends. "Is Emily home?" I frown. "Who's asking?" He smirks and crosses his arms. "Name's Ryan. I'm an old friend of hers." The way he says it, the way he leans against the doorframe, it sets off every alarm in my head. Before I can respond, Emily appears in the hallway behind me. She stops mid-step, her face paling slightly when she sees who's at the door. "Ryan?" she says, her voice uncertain. "Hey, Em," he replies smoothly. "Long time, huh?" I glance at Emily. She looks guilty, like she didn't expect this, like she doesn't know what to do. That's when Ryan drops the bomb. "I was thinking," he says casually, "why don't you and I go out tonight? You know, like old times." I stare at him, stunned. Emily's eyes dart to me, then back to Ryan. But he cuts her off. "Come on, Em. It's just one night. I mean, your husband's a reasonable guy, right?" He chuckles, like this is some kind of joke. "He can spare you for a few hours." Silence. The audacity of this guy. He stands there, smiling like he's doing me a favor by asking before trying to take my wife out. Like I'm supposed to just step aside. Emily looks uncomfortable, but she doesn't say no. And that's all I need to see. I turn back to Ryan, my expression turning cold. "Get off my porch." His smirk fades slightly. "Whoa, relax, man. I don't care what you were just doing," I interrupt. "You show up at my house, asking to take my wife out like I don't exist. Like this is normal. It's not." He glances at Emily again, like he's waiting for her to defend him. She doesn't. I take a step forward. "You think I'm going to stand here and entertain this?" I shake my head. "I don't know what kind of people you've been around, but this isn't how things work here." Ryan raises his hands like he's trying to play it cool. All right. No need to get aggressive. I just figured, she might want to catch up with an old friend." I don't break eye contact. "She's married." Ryan scoffs. "Yeah?" And that's it. I step out onto the porch, closing the space between us. Ryan straightens slightly, his confidence faltering. "You need to leave," I say firmly. "Now." He hesitates, but when he looks at me, really looks at me, he realizes I'm not bluffing. He takes a step back, then shrugs like he doesn't care. "All right, man. No need to get worked up. Just thought I'd ask." He flashes one last smirk at Emily. "See you around, Em." Then he turns and walks off down the driveway. I wait until he's out of sight before stepping back inside and closing the door. When I turn to Emily, she's standing there, arms crossed, her face unreadable. "Want to tell me what that was about?" I ask, my voice calm but firm. She exhales, running a hand through her hair. "Jason, I didn't know he was going to come here. I swear." "But you didn't say no," I point out. "Not right away." She flinches slightly, then shakes her head. "I was just caught off guard." I nod slowly, processing. "How long have you been talking to him?" Emily hesitates. "Too long." "Not long," she finally says. "Lying isn't going to help you," I say evenly. "Tell me the truth." She sighs. "A few weeks. He reached out on social media. We've just been chatting. I let out a slow breath, keeping my expression neutral. "And were you planning on telling me?" She looks away. "It wasn't a big deal." I let her words hang in the air before I respond. "If it wasn't a big deal, why didn't you mention it?" Silence. She doesn't have an answer. I nod, stepping back. "All right." Emily's brows furrow. All right? Yeah, I say, keeping my voice even. I get it now. I don't say anything else. I don't need to. I just turn and walk past her, heading toward my office. I hear her call my name, but I don't stop. I need to think. I need to figure out exactly what I'm going to do next. Because this isn't something I can ignore. And Ryan? He just made a huge mistake showing up at my house. After Ryan leaves, the tension in the house lingers like a thick fog. Emily tries to act normal, going about her evening as if nothing happened, but I can tell she's on edge. She's waiting for me to explode, to demand answers, to start a fight. I don't. I stay quiet, observing. I've learned over the years that silence is more powerful than shouting. And right now, I want to see how she reacts when I don't give her what she expects. At dinner, she's fidgety, barely touching her food. Michael talks about his day, oblivious to the strain between us. I nod and engage with him like nothing is wrong, because whatever is happening between Emily and me, it's not his problem. After he goes to bed, Emily finally breaks the silence. Jason, are we going to talk about this? She asks hesitantly. I lean back in my chair, crossing my arms. What exactly do you want to talk about? She lets out a frustrated breath. You know what? I tilt my head slightly. You mean the fact that a guy I've never met showed up at my house, asking to take my wife out for the night? She flinches at my tone. I didn't know he was coming. But you've been talking to him, I say calmly. For weeks. She hesitates. Yes, but... I hold up a hand. No excuses. Just facts. You've been messaging him. You didn't tell me, and when he asked you out, you didn't shut it down immediately. Her jaw tightens. I was going to say no. But you didn't right away, I counter. That's what matters. Silence. She looks down at the table, guilt creeping into her expression. I didn't think it was a big deal, she mutters. Then why keep it from me? She has no answer for that. I take a deep breath, gathering my thoughts. Emily, I need you to be honest with me. Why is he suddenly back in your life? And what exactly do you want from this? She rubs her temples. It's not like that, Jason. He reached out, we caught up, that's it. He was just being stupid tonight. I let out a quiet laugh. Stupid? He showed up at our house and said, she's mine for one night. That's not a stupid joke, Emily. That's a guy who thinks he has a chance. She swallows hard. I never gave him that idea. Are you sure? I press. Because a man doesn't just show up and say something like that unless he's confident. She looks away, unable to hold my gaze. And that tells me everything I need to know. She let it happen. Maybe she didn't outright encourage it, but she also didn't stop it. And in his mind, that was as good as an invitation. I push my chair back and stand up. I need some air. Jason, wait. But I don't. I grab my keys and head outside. I drive around for a while, my thoughts racing. Anger simmers beneath the surface, but it's controlled, focused. I replay everything, her secrecy, her hesitation, the way she didn't immediately shut Ryan down. She betrayed my trust. Maybe not in the most obvious way, but betrayal doesn't always come in grand gestures. Sometimes, it's in the small things, the messages she didn't tell me about, the way she entertained his presence, the fact that she allowed him to think he had a shot. By the time I get back home, I've made a decision. This isn't going to be one of those situations where I sit around waiting for her to figure out what she wants. I'm not going to be the husband who plays second to some brave ex-boyfriend who thinks he can walk into my house and take what he wants. No, I'm going to take control of this situation. Emily wanted to keep secrets? Fine. Let's see how she likes it when I stop playing by the rules she took for granted. And as for Ryan, he just made himself my problem. And I'm going to make sure he regrets ever knocking on my door. The next morning, Emily acts like everything is normal. She makes breakfast for Michael, packs his school lunch, and kisses him on the forehead before he leaves for the bus. If you didn't know any better, you'd think she was just a regular wife and mother, going about her day like nothing happened. But I know better. She glances at me as I sip my coffee. Are we okay? She asks hesitantly. I set my mug down. That depends. Are you still talking to Ryan? Her expression tightens. I told you it's nothing. That's not what I asked, I interrupt. Are you still talking to him? A pause. Then, quietly, no. I study her, searching for any signs of a lie. She looks away. She's lying. I don't say anything. Instead, I nod, pretending to accept her answer. Let her think she still has the upper hand. Let her believe I'm just going to sit back and wait for her to make a decision. She has no idea what's coming. That afternoon, I leave work early and make a call to an old friend, Ethan. He's not just a friend. He's a private investigator. I tell him what's going on, leaving out the emotions. Just the facts. A guy from Emily's past showed up at my house, acting way too familiar. My wife has been talking to him for weeks. I need to know exactly what's going on behind my back. Ethan doesn't ask unnecessary questions. He gives me a timeline, 3 days. That's all he needs. By the time I get home, Emily is already there. She's sitting on the couch, scrolling through her phone. I watch her for a moment. When I step closer, she quickly locks the screen and sets it down. Guilty. I don't confront her. Not yet. Instead, I start doing things differently. I stay out later. I don't explain where I'm going. When she asks, I give vague answers. Work ran late. Caught up with an old friend. The same empty excuses she used on me. She notices, and it bothers her. One night, while I'm getting ready for bed, she leans against the doorway, watching me. You've been distant, she says. I don't look at her. Have I? She crosses her arms. You come home late. You barely talk to me. You're different. I finally meet her gaze. So are you. She looks down, guilt flashing across her face. Jason, I don't want to fight. Neither do I. Silence stretches between us. She wants me to reassure her, to tell her that things will go back to normal. I don't. The next morning, Ethan calls. I've got something, he says. I step outside and listen as he lays it out for me. Emily never stopped talking to Ryan. She just got better at hiding it. A second phone. A private messaging app. She even met him once, just the two of them at a quiet cafe outside of town. I feel something cold settle in my chest. Want me to keep digging? Ethan asks. No, I say. I have enough. Emily made her choice. Now it's time for me to make mine. That evening, I come home earlier than usual. Emily is in the kitchen, making dinner. She looks up, surprised. You're home early, she says. I nod, setting my keys down. Yeah. Thought I'd spend some time at home. She smiles, relieved. She thinks this means I'm letting things go. She has no idea. That night, I do something I haven't done in months. I invite a friend over. Claire. She's an old friend from college. Nothing more. But Emily doesn't know that. When Claire arrives, I make sure to greet her warmly, just enough to make Emily notice. Her eyes darken. She watches us from the kitchen, pretending to be busy. After Claire leaves, Emily wastes no time. Who was that? She asks, her tone sharp. Just a friend, I say casually. She folds her arms. You never mentioned her before. I shrug. Didn't think it was a big deal. Her jaw tightens. The irony of her own words being used against her isn't lost on her. Good. She wanted to play this game. She just never expected to lose. The tension in the house reaches a breaking point. Emily is no longer her usual self. Her confidence is gone. She watches me closely, but she doesn't know what to say. She doesn't know how much I already know. She's waiting for me to explode, to confront her, to argue. I don't. Instead, I keep doing what I've been doing. I come home when I feel like it. I don't explain where I've been. I answer her questions the way she answered mine, with half-truths and vague statements. And it's driving her insane. One night, after I return home from dinner with Claire, she's waiting for me in the living room. We need to talk, she says, her voice tight. I raise an eyebrow. About what? You know what, she snaps. This, whatever game you're playing. I chuckle under my breath. Game? Funny. I thought we were just keeping things open. Her face pales. She understands exactly what I mean. You don't get to turn this around on me, she says. I didn't do anything. I stepped closer. Didn't you? You didn't shut Ryan down when he came to our house. You kept talking to him. You lied about it. You even met up with him. She stiffens. You had me followed? I tilt my head. I had a right to know who my wife was sneaking around with. Tears fill her eyes, but I feel nothing. I made a mistake, she whispers. I didn't mean for it to go this far. But it did go this far, I say coldly. And now, you don't get to decide when it stops. She swallows hard. Jason, please. I shake my head. I'm done, Emily. Her face crumples. You don't mean that. But I do. The next morning, I leave divorce papers on the kitchen table. She finds them while I'm getting ready for work. I hear her sharp inhale, the sound of papers rustling as she flips through them. You're serious? She asks, her voice breaking. I nod. Completely. She breaks down crying, pleading for another chance, but I don't give her one. She wanted to keep Ryan in her life. Now she can have him. I move forward with the divorce. It's not easy. Emily fights at first, trying to hold on to what we built. But she has no real defense. I have the proof, the messages, the meetings, the betrayal. The judge grants me primary custody of Michael. She gets visitation. The day I move out of our house is the first time in months that I feel like I can breathe again. Emily tries to stay in my life, texting, calling, hoping to mend things. But I don't answer. She made her choice. Now she has to live with it. As for Ryan, he disappears the moment he realizes Emily is no longer a married woman. Whatever fantasy he had about taking her from me crumbles when reality sets in. In the end, she lost everything. And as for me, life isn't perfect. Being a single father is exhausting. There are moments when I wonder if I should have fought harder to keep my family together. But then I remember that night, when Ryan stood on my porch, smug and overconfident, thinking he could walk into my life and take what was mine. And I remember Emily's hesitation, her silence, her unwillingness to say no. That was the moment our marriage ended. The divorce just made it official.